guys, to the second episode in this series. Today we're going to do some real coding. We're going to check up on that homework and go over the solution for that. And then we're going to be talking about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript today. Just the basics though, just small little steps. I want to build on those steps, but small steps today, just foundational stuff. Actually start building the framework of an app. So let's talk about the homework real quick and the solution to that. And then we'll probably transition back here for just a moment so that we can talk real quickly about the app that we're going to build. And then we'll go back to the code and crush it and just write some really simple, cool code and move on throughout this whole process. All right, you guys ready? Ready? I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, so multi-line. That was the goal, was to get this to be multi-line. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff here. If I were to just come in here and hit enter and save it, you can see that the code editor puts it on multiple lines. All right, now what I'm about to show you isn't necessarily the right way or the best way. It's a way. And in web development, there's a lot of different ways to do things. If you want to know the best way, it really depends on your scenario and what you're trying to accomplish. For us, we just want this to be in multiple lines. All right, so I'm going to use an HTML tag called a break tag. It looks like this. I do a less than sign. I type BR space / greater than sign. Okay, well, we are not going to use this tag a whole bunch. In your career as a web developer, you won't use this tag a whole bunch. You'll use it, but not a whole bunch. There's just better ways to solve the problem, but this one is a quick and easy way to solve it. Now, the editor realizes we want these on multiple lines, and in the app, we've got multiple lines. So I'm going to come in here and say, quick commit message, multi-line, all right? And I will commit that. And so it's on its way out. Now what's nice about these commit messages is if you come to the repo where this example is at, and we go to the code, and I can go over here, there's 5 commits. I can click on this 5 commits and I can see that on November 27th, there were these commits, and on the 28th, there was this commit, and it happened for us just 14 seconds ago. But I can click on this, like over here maybe, and I can see the changes, and that's kind of cool. And so I'm going to try and do these baby steps for us through the whole process so you can come and find these individual steps and kind of see what's happening. Also, it's good for you as a developer while you're working through your own code to make these little steps. It's like you're working, 10, 15, 20 years ago on a Word document that didn't have autosave, and you wanted to make sure to save it incrementally so you could go back to different spots and take a different direction with it if you needed to. All right. And so anywho, that's the kind of goal here, kind of where we're headed. So let's drop back to the previous screen so we can just chat for a little bit about what we're building and where we're headed. So what are we going to build? Okay, I don't believe in just like showing you coding things to be like, look, here's the thing. I want us to have a practical reason of why we're using it and applying it so that it makes sense. I don't want to just do stuff for knowledge's sake. I want you to learn something in an applicable way so that you understand why we're using it. And it's not just like, here's this thing. Great. What is it good for? So with that being said, I'm a little bit of a nerd. A lot of the people I work with, a little bit of nerds. Most of us are familiar with a game called Dungeons and Dragons. I am not a pro at it by any means. It's a fun hobby of mine that I enjoy hanging out with other people, socializing, and role-playing in. In that game, you have dice that you roll. And we're going to build an app to help us roll dice, because now that we have to be social distance, regularly, and it's kind of hard to manage those things. When we're playing virtually, it would be nice to have a place so that we can all go and see a dice be rolled together and enjoy that kind of fun. We're going to keep it super simple. We're not going to shoot for the being able to share across multiple people. We're just going to have a browser. We're going to have an input place for them to input some information, click a button, and then it does a thing. And that's as far as we're going to go with this application. We're not going to get overly complex with it, because I just want to keep it simple, introduce you into a few concepts, and then you can grow it from there. And you can learn to do more things. I'm just trying to set a good foundation for you to really, again, decide if this is the right direction for you to go in your life. So, with that being said, let's go do it, shall we? So I'm back at my first site. All right, and while this is a fun little my first site thing, we're going to just keep building on this. So this is going to be like your first app, whatever you want to call it. And so what I'm going to do first is delete all the things here. I'm going to type exclamation mark, and you'll see that there are some little helper things that come up. And if I hit tab, you'll remember this. We had all this stuff here before when we started, but we got rid of it right away. This stuff is kind of important, but I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time going over it and learning all of it. So I am going to delete it again. But I just want to talk to you and let you know, this stuff is important. It's important when we're building websites to have this stuff. It's easy to get, exclamation mark, tab, oh no, exclamation mark, tab, and there it is. But we don't need it right now per se, and we'll be able to get an app working without it. I want to focus on the simple pieces. So there was a lot of in there and a lot of HTML and HTML tags, but we're going to go over, I think about 5, if I count right. It's easy to count to 5. Yeah, 5 things on my hand here. So we're going to count. We're not going to count. We're going to go over those 5. We're going to learn just a little bit about them, how they work, and why we're using them. And then we're going to use some CSS to style them. And then we're going to do a little bit of JavaScript just so that we can start seeing where all the pieces are and seeing how it all works. All right. So again, we're going to move kind of quick because we're not going deep. We're going shallow so that we can just get a taste and feel for what's going on. All right. So I am going to open this up first by just zooming in really quick a whole bunch so that you can really see what I'm about to type. I don't want us to get confused. So I'm going to do a less than sign or an open angle bracket, which is probably what I'll refer to it as most of the time as an open angle bracket. Then I'm going to type the word div, which is just div. It's short for maybe division, maybe. So then I'm going to do a greater than sign. All right. And then I am going to type a word in here. A word. Literally typed a word. Just kidding. What we're going to do is type the name of our app that we're building. D&D Dice Roller. Now I am going to create the closing tag for that div tag. So I'm going to do the same thing, but it's just a little bit different. All right, so I'm going to break this up in a different way so that they stack a little bit better so we can see them in a different way. So I've got this here is the opening HTML tag. This is the closing HTML tag. Do you see the difference? Of course you do. There it is right there. It's that little slash. That's the difference. All right. So if I were to minus this out, put us back at 100% and save it, you'll see we've got that D&D dice roller right there. D&D dice roller. Awesome. All right. So now I'm going to zoom back in because we're going to do another tag. So I just want us to be able to focus on that. So again, open angle bracket, then I type the word input. Input. There it is. This one's a little bit different. I'm going to do a slash here and close it. This is a self-closing HTML tag. All right. What's different about this one is it doesn't have any internal pieces, what we often refer to as children, right? So this div has a child, and its child is this content here, this sentence, these words. And input doesn't have any children because we want feedback from the user. We want them to type. So if I save this and we zoom back out so we can see it, here is that input and I can type in it. Awesome, huh? That's you've used these before. You've typed your email address into them, your passwords into them, right? And that's what it is. It's just this input. So I just wrote these simple pieces and there we have it. Now you'll notice these are stacked, right? So the last one that we're going to add is a button. So I'm going to type the word button, just like I did with a div. And here I'm going to say, roll the dice. And then it wanted to make it uppercase. That's so much fun. Who cares? I don't care. Nah, I do care. I want this R to be uppercase at least. Actually, I'm going to end up changing this whole thing because it doesn't really matter right now. And then again, a closing tag. Remember that slash? There we go. That is HTML. Oh, I got to actually spell it right. If I use tab, it will autocomplete for me, which is nice. So when I'm down here and I do that opening angle bracket, it's like, do you want this? I can just hit tab and it'll complete it for me because it knows what's going on. Now, when I save this, watch where this button goes. It did not stack underneath it. It went to the side. Now, we could use that cool trick that we talked about before. We could do BR, which is a self-set closing tag we talked about real quick. That drops it down. But we're not going to do that. I'm not worried about that right now. So that, the reason they're side by side here is because these ones work different than a div. We could jump into all the details and all of the reasons why, but just know that a div, it's 100% width. So he wants to take up the whole width here. These guys, they'll just take up their own width, just however big they are. And near the end, we'll illustrate that a little bit better and help you see that. But these are the only ones that we actually really need to build an app. Some people would make an argument that you don't even need a button because there's an input that's type button, which is crazy to think about. But I want us to use a button because it's good practice in my opinion. We have an input and we have a div. And with these things, these are the building blocks that we need to build an app. We don't need much more. So we're now going to talk about styling them. So this was HTML, and now we're going to move into CSS. Right, so a new tag before all of them is a style tag. All right, so guess what? Same pattern. I can hit tab to finish it if I'm really lucky here. Wow, stop. Why doesn't it want to? It just doesn't like me, I guess. So there's our style tag. Something feels really off about this. Let me just, oh, there it is. It's a style tag. Okay, so that is our style tag. Inside of here, we actually write another type of programming language called CSS. So HTML itself is kind of its own programming language. And then inside, we're going to write CSS. So CSS has a really interesting structure. It has a couple of pieces to it, and then we just repeat that piece over and over and over again. So the first thing I'm going to do is write the name or the selector, the thing that I want to style, right? And the thing I want to style right now is a div. So I can say div for div. Then I'm going to do an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. And because our editor is so cool, I only actually need to do the opening one. It does the closing one for me. And then I hit enter. And then I'm inside. And this is where we write the rules of how we want that div to look, that div. How does it look? What do we want to do to it? Well, let's just for fun, let's just give it a background color. So I'm going to type in background. Actually, pause. I know all the things. You may not necessarily know. So what I'm going to do is hit this little plus button. And this is the key here to being able to do anything with CSS, in my opinion. If you want an easy way to learn how to do something with CSS, just type CSS tricks. You can see I searched it quite a bit. Tricks, tricks. And then we can say background color. Now here is a blog post that one of their members wrote on the 21st of August in 2019. That's the last time it was updated. They have this cool thing and they tell you about all of the things that it can do. That's really cool. But I just want this background color piece. Oh, I clicked clip. Somehow I missed getting color. There we go. So they say just put that piece in there. So they're targeting HTML. Their target is HTML. Ours is a div. And they say just put that in there. All right. So I'm going to copy that example. Literally just use Control C or Command C to copy it. Go back to the editor, drop it in there, and save it. And this is what I was talking about when I said it's 100% width. See how it goes all the way across? It's going from one edge to the other. Now that's kind of a weird color. I can change that though. I could just say if I wanted, I can just type the word red. And it would be red if I save it. My favorite color is Rebecca Purple. And so we'll use that a lot. Now, the text is black. So how do you think I could change the text color? So what I'll do is I'll come back here and I'll do CSS tricks, text color. And the first one that comes up is this color one. And they just do color blue. So I'm going to copy that, come back to our code. I'm going to drop it in here. I'm going to save it. And now the code, okay, that is like not going to work for us. Let's just try white because I feel like white's probably a winner. Now, okay, the words are like really squished in that box and there's not a lot of space. So I could Google, try to figure out like, how do I make more space in an HTML element? And I would find things. I'm going to tell you for this one, just to the interest of time, it's padding. Padding is inside of it. So I'm going to just say, I want there to be 12 pixels of padding. And now we have some padding. Cool. All right. Now I could spend a lot of time digging through here, finding all the cool things and making this look really cool. I'm not going to do that right now. We have a time crunch issue. We will spend more time doing more styling, right? But say I wanted to do the input, I could do that. And now I can adjust the input. Or say I wanted to do the button. So now I can edit the button or the input and make it look different. Because websites don't use the default versions. Everyone makes it look cool, kind of make it look their own. All right, so that is that. Now here is the little bit of JavaScript we're going to do today. So to do JavaScript, we do a script tag. All right, and guess what? It has a closing tag, just like we have been using the entire time with all the other ones. Now inside of here, I am going to write some words and you're just going to write them. We'll talk about what they do and how to utilize it, but this is probably one of the most important tools in all of the JavaScripting that you will do. All right, so you can type the word console, C-O-N-S-O-L-E dot L-O, look, there it is, log, L-O-G. It wants to help us out. So this is console log, and do parentheses. And our editor is actually pretty smart in trying to tell us that like, hey, we can put some data in there and it can be anything that we want. And so I'm going to just make a string. So to make a string, we're going to do 2 quotes. And I'm just going to be like, hi, I am JavaScript. All right, and then we're going to put a semicolon at the end. All right, now if I save this, we don't have anywhere to see that this is happening right now. So we're going to utilize this button right here. I want to make sure am I at 100%. There we go. There's a button right here that says open new window. We're going to click that. Right, and now I have the app in its own window. Again, you can see that 100% happening. That's so awesome. Now I'm going to right click and inspect here. It's Control-Shift-I or Command-Shift-I is the shortcut. And then after it opens this window, I'm going to find the tab that says Console, and you'll find what we typed there. All right. So, hi, I am JavaScript. Pretty cool. That's the first little bit of JavaScript you've done. And so it's showing up here. This is a debugging tool. When our app isn't working, we can use this to figure out what's going on. All right. So that's it for this episode. Just little tastes. We're going to build on what we've got so far. And in the next episode in the series, we'll go a little bit deeper. And there will get to be a point where we're starting to do a lot of JavaScript and not a lot of HTML, not a lot of CSS, because that's where most of the heavy lifting will happen for our little app. All right, so I'm going to come back here and we're going to make this, we're going to do a commit, and we're going to say start of dice rolling app. So we went from what we had to what we have now, and this is the start of that rolling app, right? Now I'm going to commit the changes. And again, remember, before I can even get out here and refresh it, oh, site's coming soon. Oh, we were quicker than it. Oh, there it is. Just took a couple seconds. I was just refreshing, and eventually it showed up. All right, so there we go. Now that's what that looks like. And pretty soon this guy will be our little app that we're building. So again, next time we come back, we'll dive in more to the CSS and the HTML and the JavaScript. So I got some closing remarks for you guys, and then a little bit of a homework challenge, and we'll catch you next time. But first, let's do this little. All right, so we went over some HTML, some JavaScript, and some CSS today, very little bit, and you're going to have opportunities to do some more. For the homework, what I want you to do is find out what HTML and CSS stand for. Why do we just say HTML and CSS? Go Google it. Go find out what their names are. Nothing crazy. They're acronyms, and once you learn the acronyms, you'll be like, that's why we just say HTML and CSS all the time, because the acronyms are much better. As a warning, in the web development world, we use a lot of acronyms, and even some weird ones, which we'll get into someday. But if you don't like acronyms, this is not for you, or you'll just have to learn to deal with them. All right, keep coding, have a fun day, and we will catch you next time.